Hi everyone, welcome to this new subject, construction technology and innovation. My name is Henry du Plessis. As many of you may know me already. I'm going to run through our study guide for this first lecture for the second semester. So I'm going to go through a couple of things. You would have noticed that the study guide has been posted on Blackboard already, but with the situation still being a little bit fluid and the return of the residential students and so on, we had to make one or two changes to the time schedules, etc. For you guys. So I'm just going to highlight that for you and go through basically what we're going to cover within this module. So firstly, today we're going to go through our study guide in this first lecture, and then in lecture 1.2 and 1.3 we're going to look at our introduction, chapter 1, 1.2, lecture 1.2, and then in lecture 1.3 we're going to look at chapter 2 of Construction Innovation, a book that's published by RICS. So let's get into our study guide for 2020. The main objective of this module is to provide the construction management students with knowledge and understanding of the advanced methods and materials. So we're going to focus a little bit more on the advanced methods. We're going to touch on the materials in our videos in a little bit more of an informal way. We're going to look at the methods because that is a bit more universal and cuts through a little bit more of what you will be able to apply actually in practice, whereas the materials are subject to we're going to look at the materials and so on, but that's usually dictated by the design team, which we are not really involved in too much, although it's good to always be have some insight into the materials. So that's our broad objectives of the module. Then our specific objectives is we're going to look at knowledge of new emerging technologies that are relevant to the built environment. Just to look at what you can expect within the industry. Secondly, we're going to look at the implementation process of new technologies and identifying and quantifying challenges towards new innovations. So we're going to look at more or less what type of clients you would receive, who's the drivers of innovation in the construction industry. As many of you would have seen in while in practice already, is there's a certain set of systems already in place. So it doesn't help, for instance, that you've got this nice 3D measuring program, but the drawings that you receive is still 2D or so. So it's always good to see things in perspective. It also doesn't help to have all the newest robotic technology on site, where those technologies can't be serviced. For instance, it's like buying a car, a high-end car, and not being able to service it because the parts isn't available in South Africa, for instance. Okay, so the main thing is you need to be realistic, and obviously innovation is happening, but you need to it doesn't help that you innovate too much and then you isolate yourself as well. So that's the thing that we're going to look at, finding that balance. So benefits of the existing technologies and improvements thereof. So the safest way basically to innovate is to use existing technologies and to try and improve on them. Okay, and that might even lead to new novel or new innovations that can be used. Okay, then we're going to look at certain fields of technology as well. Okay, so the outcomes of this module is the broad aim of construction innovation for students' development critical innovation thinking, as well as knowledge regarding the relevant advances, construction technologies, etc. So the students should have a conceptual understanding of the advanced decisions making towards innovation in construction. Okay, so the students should be able to demonstrate the following. This is basically what I'm going to look at whenever I do the assessments. Any understanding of innovation and cutting edge building materials and systems, knowledge of increasing role of information technology in construction and managing buildings. Okay, evaluate the relevance of applicability of new technologies, create resourceful plans towards innovation ideas or technologies within the construction industry, and then practical applications towards environmental health and safety as well as sustainability. So for instance, will a solar installation really benefit the person that's installing it or not? Okay. Then finally, analyze client stance towards construction innovation. Okay, so this is a very important thing. Your client is very important towards construction innovation. For instance, there's lots of research that's gone into alternative construction methods, for instance, lightweight steel construction, but if you look at it, will the client be happy with it? Does he want to have a hollow wall, for instance, or hollow sound whenever he hits the wall or so? Will they be happy like that? Whereas in a place like Australia, where the Victorian style and lightweight steel and wood construction is quite it's used quite often, it is much more acceptable if it's used there. For instance, if you compare it to South Africa, where we still have a very traditional sense of it should be of brick and mortar, and it should last a very long time, a building. So those are the things that we're going to look at. Okay, then just a few technical things. We're going to look at 4 study units for this semester: the introduction to innovation, construction innovation concepts, and the stakeholders and the fusion of construction technology. This is where we're going to get to the fun bit of analyzing the stakeholders, your clients, etc. Then you've got new technologies and the practicality of that. We're going to look at a little bit of road construction and some examples that we can learn from, that we can try and apply in our everyday circumstances. Okay, so this is more or less how the outline would look. I uploaded the distance learning breakdown for both this residential and distance learning mode of teaching, seeing that we're mostly in distance learning mode at this stage, although the residential students will have a face-to-face class and test during the semester, although that will still be communicated later on. Okay, so this module is over the second semester, as mentioned before. We will not have workshop 2 as shown here. So we will have our Blackboard Collaborate sessions, which I'll still share the calendar with you. So this is just a rough guideline of where we want to be and when we want to achieve our objectives on here. Even though I'm going to try and still establish or do a little bit more work and post the recordings a little bit quicker for you guys, so that you can go through it at your own time. With regard to the residential students, we're going to have contact sessions a little bit later on during the semester, so that will still also be communicated, as I said in the previous slide. So this will just give you a rough guideline. We will have our informal assessments as usual, as per our CPIR, as the CPIR module, and that will also be communicated to you. So it's usually informal per unit that we want to try and do. But the main thing is that you need to look at is, like for instance, your assignment 1 has been changed to I think it's the 9th of November. You will see that in on the updated program that I will issue to you also. And then you will see that the exam starts in November, and it will run basically just before Christmas. So the 19th of December is the last date for the examination, and then the additional exams is only in January of 2021. Okay, so I think that should just be 2021 there. Okay, so please be mindful of that. And then here's our rough schedule that we've got on here, although like I said is I will still post the updated program as more details of the semester becomes available. Okay. Then our study material will consist of the prescribed book. The study material will further consist of the study material issued on Blackboard. And in the class, what we're going to do a lot in this module is we're going to look a lot at innovation on the B1M channel, and there's a specific house that we're going to look at, innovation house, that was built in Texas in the USA, which is quite insightful. You will also be tested on some of the materials that they use there, some nice interesting stuff that we can get from that. Okay, and then the prescribed book is the book published by Rex. It's called Construction Innovation. And what I'll do is that this book will be available at the library. What I'll do at the beginning is I'll just share chapters 1 and 2 with you during this first few weeks while we just sort out the connectivity to that. I just had a look this morning at the library. It still says that the book is available there, although no copies is available. So I'll just drop that out, so at least you don't have to pay that amount, the 1,400 Rand for the book. But it's a very nice book with regard to innovation and insights into it. Okay, just looking at the rough guide for your assessments. The assessments will consist mainly at your formal test, which will be late in October. Your assignments will be on the 9th of November, the submission date. So here it's actually correct. And it will count 60%. So you can already start with your assignment 1. So really try and put in some effort for your assignment 1. Then your informal assessments will be written throughout the semester, and I'll let you know. You'll also see the provisional dates when I post the program on the announcements. Okay, that will amount to 100% of your semester mark, and you will have a this will count 60% towards your final mark, and your final examination will count 40% towards your module mark, or your final mark at the end of the year. Okay, so please be mindful of this. If there's any questions on this, you're more than welcome to contact me. Okay, just going through the module, the units. Basically for this module is the introduction to innovation. We're going to look at analyze what construction innovation is, firstly, create and present the incentives for innovation. So this is very important, the incentives for innovation. Why do we innovate? Then identify what deters from construction innovation. Okay, so things that might hamper you from actually implementing innovation in your construction projects. Okay, so we're going to look at chapters 1, 2, 3, and 4 of construction innovation. together with some videos with regard that relates to these. Okay, so we're going to look at you're going to have self-study, and then we're going to have our assessment 1 or informal assessment 1. Then we're going to look at the grassroots of innovation. We're going to conceptualize the grassroots of innovation. Okay, where does it originate from? Why do we innovate? Obviously, one wants to be as efficient as possible. And then we're going to evaluate the constraints and regulations towards innovation. Okay. For instance, you can't now suddenly try a new construction method that the NHBRC might put a stop to it, or it might not be safe or so. Like, for instance, if you want to try and use bamboo scaffolding in South Africa where it's not used readily, you might have trouble getting that signed off, for instance. Okay, so analyze how innovation diffuses across the industry. This is going to be a very important focal point. So this is mainly comprised out of chapters 5, 6, 7, and 8 of our construction innovation. Okay. So the content is basically grassroots innovation in construction, regulations in the new build housing, insights into the adoption and diffusion of microgeneration technology. So these are a way that you can summarize it. It's basically retrofit or small items that you put onto your building to save, to make it greener or innovative. You can think of solar geysers, for instance, or something in that line. Then in industrial network perspective on innovation, so this is a very important section that we're going to look at. How does it actually affect, because the construction industry is not, it's a sum of a big whole of different role players that plays a role within the design and actual implementation thereof. So innovation diffuses across firms. This is a very nice and interesting chapter that we're going to look at. And then in Unit 3, we're going to evaluate the client with regard to innovation. This is where it becomes very practical and where you can actually analyze your client and see what type of client you're looking with, working with. Analyze innovation and categorize it in terms of integrated design delivery solutions. Okay, this is again, we're going to categorize different clients and different stakeholders towards innovation, and then we're going to distinguish the different project delivery systems. Okay, and this is mainly chapters 9, 10, 11, and 12 of the Construction Innovation book. And then finally, in Unit 4, we're going to compare production materials and the impact thereof, evaluate the new possible innovations that could be applied in the construction industry, and identify technologies relevant to the environment, health, safety, and in general sustainability. And this is mostly in chapter 13 of the Construction Innovation book. So it's not really that much work, but you will see additional sources will be provided for this. What we're going to do in this unit is, like the additional sources, we're actually going to cover throughout the whole semester. So when we get to Unit 4, it will actually not be that much work to cover. Okay, so let's get to our task. So this task you can actually start with already. And basically for this task you need to go through the prescribed book and consider the company that you are currently working for. If you're not working for a company, obtain a construction company that you can use. I'm specifically thinking of the residential students. You can maybe have a look at the site that you use for CTIR and the company that's working for them, and try and look at what innovative things they are doing. Okay, there has to be a current practical application and honest evaluation with real outcomes that can be used by your company to enhance its performance or support its status quo, if innovation is already an integrated part of the operations. So what I'm going to look at is whether you're going to critically evaluate this company that you're evaluating, and see where can they actually innovate to save time, money, or be innovative towards health and safety and the environment. So the project scope is with specific cognizance of the environment, health and safety, as well as sustainability. Only one of the before mentioned can be used, or you can use all of them, because as you will see as we go through the work, if you look at sustainability is more than just the environment. It also comprises financial sustainability, etc. So you can link your project or your company either to the environmental, health, safety, or whatever. For instance, if you're looking at a company, are they shifting towards more home-based type of work, which improves on health of the employees, for instance. That might be an innovative thing that you might look into. Okay, so establish your company's stance towards the availability of innovation, and if they have a policy, many of your companies won't have an actual policy towards it, but they will still have a stance towards it and still use certain methods to try and be innovative, even if it's like acquiring maybe plant that's a little bit more cheaper to run, for instance. Suggest possible improvements of A, support your suggestions with references and examples, places it's been used before, etc. So for instance, if someone is now suddenly converting their measuring systems for payment certificates to CCS, for instance, has it been used somewhere else? So you have to compare it to other places that it's been implemented or not. Have they done their homework? Are they going to save money? Are they going to be more efficient on it? Yes, so basically that you have to evaluate. Identify areas where new existing technologies and innovation can contribute towards the value of a company. It can be a single solution or multiple solutions. So for instance, now using software for measurements, that might be one thing, but now you might have to get another additional software to actually do the financials, for instance, of your measurement work. Or you may get 3D models from a certain company, but now you first have to convert it into a certain file that can actually be used by this new measurement item that you've got. Okay, then identify areas where new existing technologies can contribute towards your value of your company. Okay, so we've done that. Calculate the capital cost and time frame needed to implement this item. So this is the fun bit. We need to put yourselves in the shoes of this company, because this will actually be a thing that you can use in future. How are you going to evaluate any new technology that you're going to use? For instance, getting infrared cameras, looking at curing time for your concrete, having a optimal concrete curing solution, for instance, putting up cameras or getting drones to survey a site for you every now and then. It's all of those type of items that you may use that can maybe improve on your health and safety. For instance, if you've got cameras, I've worked on a project where the site was fitted with cameras, and some had some thermal imaging technology embedded in them to see if a site has to be evacuated, whether everyone has actually been evacuated or not. Okay. List and discuss the advantages and disadvantages of the proposed innovation. So basically what you're going to do in item E is you're going to say, okay, this new technology is actually feasible, or it should be, they can rather use their money somewhere else or so. So you need to evaluate this new technology that they're going to use. Okay. You can think of anything. You can maybe think of maybe installing double glazing instead of normal glazing as a technology that can be used. It's readily available already and has a little bit more additional cost at the start of the project, but it will improve the life cycle cost of the whole project. Okay, thanks everyone. That's more or less this first lecture and just the overview of the module. So if there's any questions, like always, please do not hesitate to contact me.